Hello, and welcome back to the Argyle SMB Finance Leadership Forum. My name is Brittany Sullivan with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our panel moderator. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. For those seeking CPE credit today, you must answer at least 3 polling questions and remain on the session for its duration. Polls can be found under the Polls tab on the right-hand side of your console next to Chat. Afterwards, if you are eligible to receive credit, you will receive an email with a link to your certificates. If you have any questions on credits, please email cpe@argyleforum.com. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would love to introduce our moderator, Philip Peck, Vice President, Advisory Services and Finance Transformation Practice at Peloton Consulting Group. We are excited to have Philip and our panelists with us for a discussion titled Future-Proofing SMB Finance, Digital Transformation for Success. Welcome, Philip, and over to you.
Brittany, thanks so much, and greetings, everyone. I am honestly extremely excited to be moderating this session, as the topics and the points we're going to be covering, I think they're highly relevant for FP&A and the finance community. And we have 3 outstanding finance leaders here today with us. Well, they'll be sharing their insights and wisdom throughout the discussion. Quick little bit more about my background. As Brittany said, I'm Vice President of Advisory Services and Finance Transformation for Peloton Consulting Group. Our company helps organizations drive digital transformation, providing advisory, consulting, and managed services capabilities across enterprise performance management, enterprise resource management, supply chain management, human capital management, customer experience, analytics, and data management for the cloud. I've personally spent my entire 35-plus year career in FP&A, finance, and controllership domain areas, working in various corporate roles and now in management consulting, helping organizations explore the art of the possible and adopt leading-edge practices across the entirety of FP&A, finance, and controllership functions. I'm now going to have each of the esteemed panelists introduce themselves. And Christopher, can I start with you?
Sure, happy to start. Christopher Hollinger, I'm the CFO here at Rethink Food. Rethink Food is a nonprofit focused on creating a more sustainable and equitable food system. Here at Rethink, I manage our finance team, our data analytics, our technology administration, as well as our people department. I'll pass it over to Julian.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Julian Denaes. I am one of the Senior Director of Product here at Bill.com. I'm pretty sure that all of you are familiar with Bill.com, but we do AP, AR, spend expense management, and we've been doing that for quite a long time now. Today, I mainly manage everything AI and data here at Bill, so much more on the back end to what you guys are using, but very excited to be here today. Thank you for having me. Nayab?
Yeah, thank you, Julian. Hi, everyone. My name is Nayab Siddiqui. I'm the CFO and Head of Strategy for Resi360. We are a technology company that operates a community platform, and we are a travel tech company. We focus on building human connections, well-being, travel, and tourism. I'm based out of Silicon Valley in California. Personally, I've got more than 25 years of experience in finance, business operations, and I'm happy to be part of this group and looking forward to a great discussion today.
Thank you all for the introductions, and it's great that we have such a diverse set of backgrounds for all of you. And hopefully the participants are ready. I like to use this phrase, buckle up, let's dive in. So question number 1 for all of you. From your experience, how has the finance function evolved over the last few years, and what role does digital transformation play? To the extent you have some real-world examples, that would be great. I'll start, Christopher, with you, then go to Niab, and then Julian.
Sure. I've had a pretty distinguished career in finance, and I think it's really evolved from accounting, bookkeeping, putting together the financial reports, to being more of a strategic partner with the business. And that involves a lot of digital transformation. One of the big things, for us is we're really focused on building out much better dashboards, and as well as using more FP&A tools to allow our department heads to have more real-time or as close to real-time visibility into their numbers, what's driving those numbers, And then our team spends more time actually working with them to help them to understand those numbers, help them to drive the business, as opposed to just doing what was historically putting together spreadsheets or putting together reports. So I think it's much more, like I said, involving business, involving technology, involving tools to really help the finance team be more of a strategic advisor as opposed to just a bookkeeper.
That makes complete sense. Certainly in the journey that my firm has with all of our clients, I think we've seen over time an acceleration of the ability to get to the answer or get the base set of information, be it a dashboard, be it a report, be it some visualization, such that, as you're saying, your team can add so much more value by actually working with the business and elevating their financial aptitude, helping them make better decisions. So I know we're going to cover a lot of this, but I think that's a great trigger for all of us as we get started on the question. Nayab, what about you on this question?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would resonate what you, Philip, you and Christopher has just talked about. And if I look at like start of my career, I mean, the finance function has really transformed from that day onwards to what we see today. It was a back office functions, completely compliance driven role, looking backwards rather than forwards. And now, if you look at it, the transformation has not even taken us into a different direction, but we just like has switched our roles as such, and that has given us a seat at the table, because now we are so closely embedded with the business. Earlier, it was more of getting the data from the business, crunching that to a certain level, and then presenting it back to them. But now we are sitting alongside with them, playing part in day-to-day strategy, playing part in tactics, playing part in how we are shaping the business. So that's how the transformation has happened over a period of time for finance function. Secondly, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, as I said, it was more of a reactive function, and how this has happened, it's all because of the transformation through technology. All the manual processes have evolved, and now they're done by through digitization. We are more focused on predictive, agile, and deeply embedded strategies, rather than just what has happened in the business and just transforming that into a certain type of report. So that's how we see overall the finance functions that evolved over the past 20 years or so.
Those are great perspectives, and I know you're suggesting, which Chris, you did the same thing, that change, that from the back room to the boardroom, being indispensable business partner, it's accelerating, and it's accelerating at a very, very rapid pace, in large part driven by the capabilities that digital transformation avails, whether it's a process, technology, or just the superset of capabilities. Julian, would love for you to opine on this one as well.
Yeah, I hope I won't repeat anything, but indeed, I think that the reactive pattern to the much more proactive pattern is where we can really put the spotlight. Having everything being integrated, for me, I think is really where it's much more than just pulling spreadsheet and trying to make things manually together. Today everybody has access to technology, that it's much more easier to integrate everything, and having really these 360 degrees views of the business live. You don't need to wait to close the books at the end of the month in order to get already some answers of questions that usually you only ask at the end of the month or the end of the quarter. And therefore, being able to have all of that integrated live from the data point of view allows you to do much more. I'll give you just one example, is especially on the cash flow management, is being able to analyze, for example, the behavior of your potential customers, and being able to say, hey, we might have a churn issue at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter with that big customer of ours. And therefore, if that happens, you can identify it much, much earlier and potentially try to, mitigate that, or even potentially even save the customer, but at least it doesn't come as a surprise after the fact. So therefore, having these capabilities today is really what is different than just a few years ago.
I love your example. Something popped into my mind. It's a phrase, certainly not my own, but I've co-opted it at times to describe exactly what you're describing: analytics at the speed of business. So it's real time. It's, to your point, you're so much further ahead of the curve in dealing with, in the case you described, a significant variance, if you will, from a cash perspective on that particular customer. And you've got the information at your fingertips. Now, what you do with it is, the whole other set of things, but hopefully the finance and the FP&A teams have the aptitude and the partnership that now they have the insights and information they can help mitigate and or course correct.
Great.
Love the example. Let's go on to the next question. Where have you seen the largest efficiency gains from automation or AI for finance, and what processes are best to automate first? Niab, you first, Julian, then Chris, yourself.
Sure. Of course, very, very relevant point, Philip. So I think the largest gain that consistently come up in our automation effort are those areas which are high volume, typically rule-based processes, like especially those that are prone to human error, there where we can see a lot of bottlenecks. I think these are the processes that we can automate efficiently. But actually, the real value lies in when automation is layered with intelligence, predictive analytics, anomaly detection, and where real-time decision making is required. So I think these are the areas where we can really focus on while we are transforming from the legacy systems over to the new systems. Typically talking about when I say high volume and repetitive or rule based, I think some of the examples could be accounts payable function, because a lot of volume goes through the accounts payable. I think that is something that we can definitely think about automation. And then talking about coming from the payment industry, I can see there's a lot of opportunity in expense accounting. Bank reconciliation is another example where there's a lot of volume going through the systems, and those needs to be reconciled every now and then. Typically they were done like on monthly or quarterly basis, but now with the new tools you can do it instantly. You can see your bank status. You can sort of focus on where your money should go, rather than just waiting for the month to end and only then find out the balances and then move the funds. So treasury could be a very, very important function where we can use automation to streamline the functions. And then I think a lot of volume goes through our credit card transaction, because more and more companies are resorting to using credit cards. Those are the areas which are prone to a lot of potential frauds. And since the volume is high, value is low, I think those are the areas where if we can focus and we can try to automate, we can reap the benefits of digital transformation over there.
I think those are great examples, and the way you're describing it, the term that I like to hear in the industry at times, it's intelligent automation. So there's certain things that, to your point, heavily rules-based oriented, and there's certain technologies and processes that enable you to have tremendous efficiency gains. As you move up the evolution, then it's always the partnership between those technology capabilities and AI-centric things with the human element. So the intelligent automation, I definitely love that phrase. Julian, especially given your role at Bill, I'm sure you have a lot to add here on this one.
Yeah, for sure. What Niab mentioned, high volume and low complexity, 100%. Where we've seen, everybody is jumping on AI, talking about AI. I'm sure this is a daily conversation for everyone, for all of you. The thing where is like we've seen the most successful AI project for internally or even for our customers is like do not try to reinvent a whole workflow with AI. Like AI is going to help you a lot, but it's not going to replace people right away, and it's not going to replace the jobs right away, and that's totally fine. So do not try to change the whole workflow with AI. Try to change pieces of the workflow and really measure what's happening. And just by changing one pieces, you can actually improve the whole workflow, which is great, but just having bit by bit. And therefore, that's why I think that this is the most impactful today that we can leverage AI. I'll give you an example. Where I see AI having the most impact is really when the AI adapts to the business, and therefore personalization is really kind of the big word here, more than AI. Actually, personalization is. So I'll give just one example that is interesting because I think probably everyone can implement that. Reminders for DSOs. Like this is a very easy thing to replace. Like when your customers are late, you can absolutely send reminders. Those could be automated and they could be extremely personalized. They can also learn from the data. Like if Christopher is one of my customer and I know that yes, he's going to pay late this month because we had interaction and those interactions are in the CRM, then the AI message for the reminder can be delayed. It doesn't have to hit, on the 5th of the month just because he's late 5 days. Totally fine. But for other customers, then we might not have a reason, then we can send those. So having really personalized messages based on customer interaction, based on customer context, that is a total game changer that AI is really good at. And it doesn't take necessarily a lot of engineering, resources or heavy load in order to implement something like that. And it doesn't change your whole sales process or billing process. You're just changing one piece at a time, and you'll see that you're already saving time. You're probably going to get some cash, much faster. And therefore, that's the kind of things where you can measure the impact of AI today.
Wow, that's an extraordinarily good example, and I love that. I love the element that you're stating. AI in and of itself is very, very important, but as you're suggesting, that personalization in this specific use case is real. It's tangible, and that's how we interact with clients and customers and vendors and whomever. That personalization. I love that theme. Hey, Christopher, how about yourself on this topic?
Yeah, I would say I echo and agree with everything everyone else has said. One of the things I was thinking about is just coding transactions. The intelligence, being able to, when you look into the financial system or your accounts payable system, or I guess those are probably two biggest, but just being able to code transactions, matching transactions, particularly when you get payments in, where you don't have to have as much of a human touch, really saves a tremendous amount of time. One of the things I'm really excited about is, one of our systems has a AI, what they call FP&A analyst, where it will actually help you with your budget to actuals. So as opposed to you having to drill into transactions and figuring out what causes anomalies, it gives you at least some insight by going through the transaction. So that's actually one area I'm really interested in, because I think that's it goes up the food chain as far as what your people are doing, but it still saves a tremendous amount of time.
I know in the clients we're working with, we definitely see both the appetite and kind of the zest to embrace, specifically in the FP&A realm, where as a FP&A practitioner, we think we're king of the hill and all that, but anything that can help us accelerate our ability, again, to get to the answer and provide the value-added insights and take away some of the drudgery and take away some of the work that isn't as higher value add, free up our time. That's absolutely essential. Next question. We'll pivot a little bit here for all of you. And this one, Julian, I'll have you answer first. How can SMBs find the right balance between adopting new technologies and still maintaining control over costs and any associated risks?
Sure. So I'll piggyback a little bit on the previous questions of trying to find those quick wins, right? Do not replace, do not have necessarily big project. Try to find some of the quick wins that, again, can automate and save you time for yourself, for your team, for everybody in the business. But try to identify those quick wins that are very low risk and somehow big rewards, right? So that's number one. The number two, in terms of cost, there are dozens of new AI solutions providers that are basically being born every day. It's absolutely crazy. The money that is being thrown at startups for AI is unseen, right? And therefore, you have the choice. You really have the choice. You do not need to start, yearly subscription, 5-6 figures contract in order to go with one of the big provider. And therefore, I will tend to say, try things, really try them. And it's okay to start with a monthly subscription, and then you switch the next month or the next quarter and try things. There are many things doing the same, kind of feature, the same kind of value, but don't hesitate to test them, to swap them. And that's something that we are really I'm pitching internally is like, when you think about your stack, especially for those new solutions, then the thinner the layer, the better it is. Because if you don't like that specific provider, you can swap it to another one. And therefore, you won't break your whole stack. The thicker the layer, the more risky it is, and potentially also the more costly. So don't hesitate to try things. And like, it's not written in stone. A contract can be changed, a provider can be changed. So don't hesitate to try things, swap, break, and do it again, without necessarily spending a ton of time. Again, focus on the quick wins. And finally, I just want to make sure that also focus on the basics as well. Like, we are talking about data. Most of the time, data breach is the worst that can happen. So just make sure that you have, from a risk point of view, your security, your single sign-on, your password manager, and everything, because any of those providers are great, but make sure that some of those basics are still here.
That's great perspectives. And I think your last point, all of the things associated with security, those are table stakes. Those are just absolutely foundational. They're no regrets. They're just what you have to do in today's environment. I also like your theme of the experimentation and constantly testing and trying. It's a little bit of the concept of shooting bullets before you fire the cannon. Like, play around with it and get, pressure test it and kick the tires and do different things. Because I think, as we're all suggesting, this world is so dynamic right now. There isn't a perfect path for every organization. You somewhat have to try and kind of figure it out. Chris, how about yourself on this one?
Yeah, it's one thing. Really enjoy what Julian said. A couple important points. I really like the idea about trying, because that's one of the things we like to try and test. Because a lot of vendors do give 30-day period free trials. So just take advantage of it. The other thing I was going to say is, though, I think you should always be cognizant of your current tech stack, but as well as your operational and people, I think, capabilities. For me, I like to keep things as simple as possible. So I really like providers that provide what I consider simple solutions that solve complex problems. We're in the process of changing our CRM, because we had a very complicated CRM that we weren't really using. They have tremendous number of features, but we weren't really using the vast majority of them. And so we found another provider that provides kind of the more simple solutions, features that we really need. The other thing I think is really great is that there are a lot of smaller or mid-sized companies, or even some of the larger companies, that are providing enterprise level solutions for SMBs, tools that historically only large enterprise would have access to. But a lot of companies are making those products at a cost and a complexity level that SMBs can use. So I would say definitely take advantage of that, cash flow forecasting tools, FP&A tools. So definitely take advantage of those too.
Chris, great point on the barriers to entry, if you will, or the barriers to adopting enterprise grade solutions. To your point, that's significantly dropped from what it was not that long ago, to like you're suggesting, hey, explore, take advantage, look for some alternative ways of thinking about those use cases, those benefits where you can benefit from the technology. Nayab, how about yourself on this one?
Yeah, I think, as far as SMB is concerned, it's pretty tricky, because a lot of times SMBs think that all this technological advancement, that is not for us, because you need big amount of dollars or lying in the bank account. Only then you'll be able to transform your operations and be ahead of the curve, which is not the case, and which should not be the case. I like the testing point, which Julian has earlier alluded to, but with a little bit of on caution, because I would like to say that the SMBs should follow their needs, not the trends. A lot of times what we see is there's so much of influx of new technologies coming in the market, that a lot of times SMBs specifically, they lose their focus. What are they trying to achieve by implementing a certain technology or automation tools? And in that sense, what they do, they try to keep implementing new tools all the time, losing the focus on what they want to achieve from that. So one a caution point of caution would be to make sure that what are you trying to achieve from there, And once we identify that focus on only those tools who are basically good for you, rather than anything and everything which is out in the market. So that is one thing which I've personally seen in my career, that people keep subscribing to new tools all the time. Which tools is serving which purpose? A lot of time one team knows about one tool, the other team is working on another tool, and there's no goal congruence as such. So I would try to sort of focus on that. And then for specifically for SMB, I think scalability and the potential for an agility is very important, because SMBs are very agile organization. They keep changing every other day. There's a new business deal and the processes have to change. There's a new market they're entering and the processes, the tools have to change and adapt to the new environment. So from that perspective, when you are identifying a cloud-based solution or a solution, just make sure that you are thinking ahead of time. You're thinking that today we need this tool, but tomorrow if something changes, is this tool, is this technology scalable enough, agile enough, so that we can cope up with the new requirements going forward? Of course, you don't know what you don't know as far as future is concerned, but at least you know your business. If you know your business, you know your trajectory. Based upon that, you can always identify good tools, good automation opportunities, good technologies out there, and then choose wisely. So yeah, that's what my experience is, and that's what I've seen a lot in my in the market as such.
That's an extraordinarily important and relevant and good set of guiding principles for those SMB organizations. Adaptability, flexibility. Of course, you need your game plan or a roadmap, but expect it to change as the world vastly evolves. Have your guiding principles or North Star objectives, stay aligned with them, but course correct, bob and weave as appropriate, given just the context of your environment. I think that's great. Move a different direction now. And we like to think about all the positive things, like nirvana, the end state, and all the great things that we want and can accomplish in this space. But now let's spin it a little bit differently. What are the biggest challenges facing finance teams when modernizing systems through digital transformation, and how can these be mitigated? Chris, I'll start with you.
Well, I really like what I said earlier. It's like, first, you really need to understand what are you trying to solve? What is really the need that you're trying to bring in? I think that a lot of organizations, people, you can get, kind of seduced by nice, shiny bells and whistles, the new tool syndrome, which I call it, the new tool that does this, does that. But is that really what you need for your organization? I think you really need to be cognizant of anytime you bring in something new to the organization, there is a learning curve. There is an implementation cost, whether that's actual cost in bringing in system implementers, or time that you really have to spend, or your people have to spend learning or actually putting things into practice. So one of the things I really harp on a lot whenever we're thinking about, because we've actually changed our expense management system two times since I've been here. We've changed our AP system once since I've been here. So one of the things I really focus on, I really drive home a lot, even before we make a decision, is what is the implementation involved? How long is it? What does it involve? And I really want to spend time looking at the interface because we actually just changed our compliance management software last year. And what really the driving factor for me was how much user-friendly more than one interface looked than the other, because I felt that would be much easier to implement and get people to use. So I think those are some of the things that I think are really important when you think about making changes.
At the end of the day, whatever the solution is, you're looking to have that adopted.
Yeah.
You're looking to get people to use the new capabilities and completely embrace everything that's there in the powerful solution. So to your point, whatever you can do to maximize the potential adoption, along with change management and associated things, that can only benefit you and the organization. Great perspective. Niab, how about you on this one?
Yeah, I think the multiple challenges that finance teams face while modernizing their systems, and it's like multifaceted. It's not just technological challenges; it's mostly human challenges. It's team challenges. It's goal congruence. It's alignment challenges. So unless and until we don't address all of these, it will be very difficult to successfully implement a new technology or transform from where we stand today to where we intend to be. Um, Specifically, so I think I'll first touch upon the challenges in terms of adoption or embracement, because what happens is a lot of time people think that it's a top-down process. If the leadership is aligned, everything will flow smoothly. And a lot of time people think that it's a bottoms up approach. If people are adopting it, everything will go smoothly. It doesn't work like that. So the challenges lie at both the ends. So first of all, the leadership should be sold to that idea that we need to do it and why we need to do it. And then of course, everyone has to embrace that change as well. So if that doesn't happen, it'll be it'll be hugely challenging to implement that transformation initiative. And for that, of course, we need to make them understand that what is the value we are creating, what is the value that this new transformation is bringing. Once that value is understood, only then it becomes a successful journey, not a successful project, but a successful journey. And to embrace that journey, of course, we have to have the right processes. Our legacy systems are mostly something which are always deterrents in terms of making any changes, and the mere nature of our finance function is a big hurdle. Why? Because in other functions sometimes you can work in isolation, you can implement a new process and there's a D-Day cutoff date, you just switch it over. But for finance it's not the case. Every other second there's a new transaction happening. The new process can't, it's just like, the water is running through the system and you still have to build a bridge. So that's what happens with finance. So you can't stop the transaction, you can't stop the business, but at the same time, you have to change the track and successfully change the track where the new transformation system actually gets embedded into the system at some point in time. So I think, that's the biggest challenge. Secondly, it's more about working in silos and not thinking through that how all the different functions will work together and how it will impact. I can give you a very relevant and practical example which I've seen a lot of times. So, for instance, a large corporation, the head office intended to implement a new software. And since they were sitting in the headquarters, they were only looking at their own environment, their own company. But their companies, subsidiaries, affiliates, they were spread all around the world. Each subsidiary was following a different process, a different technological tool, a different ERP, or sometimes even tools which were generating, compiling, processing data were different from what they were trying to implement. So they could implement it in the headquarter or the main companies, but all those subsidiaries, they were still working in silos. As they were implementing this process, there was a bit of, not a bit, it was a huge disruption. It was a huge disconnect between the whole organization. So it went to a failure because what they wanted to achieve was they wanted to have, real-time data, analytics availability, data availability. Unfortunately, the data was not coming from those entities to the headquarter, no matter whatever the headquarter could have done, whatever fancy tools they could have implemented, it ended up as a failure. So these are real life challenges that I've seen a lot of companies go through because, as I said earlier, top down, they thought we can do it without involving the bottom layer. And sometimes the bottom layer thinks, hey, this is a great tool, let's implement that, but they don't have the buy-in from the top. So it's a, if you want to have a win-win situation, you have to have an embedded thought process across the organization.
Those are great examples. That dynamic of leadership tops down and buying in and being the great executive sponsors and supporting and bringing forth the right resources to from bottoms up, people embracing a brave new world. I think you're describing sometimes tops down. They don't necessarily see what's underneath the iceberg. So we go, oh, of course, this solution we configure it, turn it on, and magically it improves everything. And they don't have visibility and transparency to what's really happening on a day-to-day basis. Conversely, to your point, with the best intentions, people will go off and say, this solution is great, but they may lose steam and they don't have the ultimate support from the leadership team to make hard decisions, or getting back to the guiding principles, say, we have to make key design decisions or whatever they are and make some strategic trade-offs. You need, to your point, you need both. That's great. Julian, would like your perspective on this one.
Yeah, it's hard to add just value after Christopher and I have for sure. But one of the things I've seen in finance is really the resistance to change. So it's much more kind of a mindset, more than there are some technological, challenges like the lack of data integration, data silos, these kind of things. Those are definitely they happen, and hopefully you have internal resources to face those. If not, then potentially some newer tools can help that. But the resistance to changes, I think, on the human side, is one of the biggest kind of challenge that I think in finance, because everybody love their spreadsheet, right? Excel has been here forever, and probably is going to be here for a while. So trying to lead with the value more than just the change of saying, hey, we are not trying to change your workflow, we are not trying to change everything. You can keep Excel, and Excel is going to be here forever, but look about the value of that new tool and how it integrates into Excel, how it integrates into your workflow, and how much value it gives you or how much time it saves you, right? So understanding this value for the business, for each individual contributor, not only at the top, but also, in on the ground, is, I think, the way really to lead of saying, hey, this is the value, this is what we are making that change, and trying to lead by the example, like really be the voice of how that is going to change for the whole company. Like there is a little bit of internal roadshow, and I think that for finance leader, that's part of the job of being able to go on the ground and really do the roadshow of saying, this is the value, this is how this will help the business itself, not just the individual contributor about that specific jobs to be done.
That's great perspective, and I think there's an element there that the human side, as you're clearly articulating, an organization needs to meet their associates and their people across the broad organization where they are, so that you need to find ways to help them embrace the value proposition. You're not ripping things out and telling them they can't do things. You're offering a different perspective that make their lives better, hopefully elevate themselves from a quality of life, all those different elements. But every human being is different. So that those dynamics of change management and communication and the tools and the tricks, you need to adapt it for your organization. Keep us going here, and I'm going to pivot after one more question and address some of the things that people have been submitting. But I'd like to go to one here that's more the orientation around how do we justify digital transformation initiatives? What metrics or KPIs are most useful for tracking the success of digital transformation? And Julian, I'll ask you this one first.
I think, well, you can split in two different things, right? You can split in finance metrics, you can split in operational or even sometimes strategic metrics of who you're targeting. Where are you looking at those metrics? Is it for the business? Is it for the people? You can look at time saved. You can look at the different team capacity, and therefore being able to understand, then we were able to save that much time, so therefore we are one person more that now we can really use that person for much more strategic operations or just projects. So therefore being able to have that what metrics is quite important. If you're looking at financial metrics and trying to automate through AI or through different new tools, it's like looking at the cash flow, right? I mentioned the DSO earlier. That could actually be one that is part of the finance metrics that could actually help you and say, wow, since we implement, we were able to see this kind of ROI on just cash flow management. I think that if you're looking really like on the ground and for things of automation as well, operation metrics at the end of the month is like, how much time did it take us to close a year before we implemented this new process or this new technology, and how much time does it take us to close now given the new scale of the company? And therefore this kind of very specific metrics at very specific like jobs to be done again is at the end, you can look at a dozen different metrics, and therefore then you will have some real ROI instead of trying to find one big metric. This is just too hard. So just go very granular, and maybe it's a dozen, and if it's a dozen, that's totally fine. But then it will give you kind of this, big dashboard that gives you a real ROI for the company.
That's great perspective. I think what's amongst the many important things that you called out there, Julian, it's a complement of different metrics. It's not just financial metrics. It's not just operational metrics. And presumably there's some others that are more capability oriented in a way that you can measure and track and monitor. And even the people side. Are you making lives better for people? However you measure that, it's the complement that helps you justify the investments and track and monitor, and then hopefully feed upon itself. As you said earlier, quick wins are a great way to get started, build up an appetite, get credibility in the organization, and it feeds on itself in a kind of a positive, virtuous circle of life kind of mantra, if you will. Chris, how about yourself on KPIs and metrics?
I guess I go similar. I guess financial metrics. One of the things we like to look at is our receivables outstanding. By just being better on top of our receivables, our follow up. Trying to automate our response times. At least the first two responses kind of automated, and then the third time we generally make a phone call. So how is that? Compared to last year, there's our dollar outstanding. One of the things I actually look at a lot is people costs. So when I think about bringing in tools, because I mentioned we have a new FP&A system we put in last year, and a big part of that, the cost of putting that in was a lot less than what it would cost to hire a new FTE, and it would allow us to do a lot of the things we would be doing if we did add an additional FTE, and it's been very helpful. So I generally look at a lot of things from FTE savings or potential savings when I'm looking at implementing new tools.
You think on the FTE note, just the ability, however you measure it, the ability to create capacity such that for many SMBs, hopefully you're growing and you're asked to do more, or maybe private equity firm acquires you, or whatever the dynamics are. There's more asks over time, more insights, more information, more dashboards, whatever they are, such that if you can make these strategic investments and drive the efficiency and effectiveness, you create capacity such that your finance team, your FP&A team, your controllership group can just do more, and not do more with less per se, but do more because you free up their time to do the things that they really should be focusing on.
Yeah, and actually, example, we're really building our contract business. One of the things we do is we make meals for governments, other nonprofits. We'll generally pay our restaurant partners, and we'll get paid by the funding party. Generally we can take longer payment terms than our suppliers can, and so it generally does affect our cash flow. So we do a weekly cash flow forecast, and a lot of that comes from the system we put in place. So if I had to be able to do that, I would have had to add an FTE, and that would have taken away the time and ability to do other things. And so that's one example for us where it does provide additional capacity on the team without adding, like I said, a lot of more cost from an FTE standpoint.
A wonderful example, like that value proposition is crystal clear. You had to make the investment to invest in the tools and technology and revamp processes, but you're reaping the benefits, and it's clear. That's great. Niab, how about you on this one?
Yeah, I think Christopher and Julian both are spot on. I'll take it to a different, from a different, consider that from a different angle as such. So I think, there are hundreds of KPIs that we can build. Every business can build their own KPIs. Sometimes they're aligned with how we look at it from financial perspective. But of course, business, what we are trying to achieve is, creating that value in the business by either reducing cost or increasing capacity to earn more revenues, or inculcate some kind of finesse in our business, right? So that's how we are looking at it. So there could be two types of KPIs. One would be qualitative, and the other one would be quantitative. So quantitative would be more focused on our finance related KPIs, whereas qualitative could be improvement in function, satisfaction, job satisfaction, doing more with less, getting more efficient. So those kind of KPIs can be built on the qualitative side as well. And to Christopher's points, a lot of time what we see when we are looking at KPIs, when we are trying to implement new tools, we are focusing more on cost saving. I believe cost saving is very important, but that is a short-term view of that. When we are implementing a tool, when we are implementing a transformation or a new technology, I think our goal should be medium to long term, which means how we are adding that finish to the organization, which actually creates value for the organization. Because you can only reduce costs as much, maybe 20% in the FTE, a few percentages here and there. But if you add quality to the value that your business is creating through implementation of those insights, I think that way you can create much more value, much more impact, being the finance function, by providing those insights to the business, which can create long-term value for the business, take it to the next level. So that's how we need to define, identify KPIs and implement those as we embark on this transformation journey.
That's a great perspective. You're actually hitting on one of the participants in this webinar was asking about alignment to strategic objectives, and you nailed that one right there. It's not just a cost play. It's not just a this play. It's much, much broader than that when you think about the longer term perspective on where you want and need to be as a finance and FP&A function supported by these new capabilities. Little less than 5 minutes left. There's one question that I think is pretty relevant that one of the participants submitted, and I'm going to flip it over to the three of you to opine, and then we'll wrap it up. How can SMBs identify the most cost-effective digital tools that deliver measurable impact without overcomplicating finance operations? Julian, I'd love for you to lead us on this one.
I think in order to identify, it's really first defining the objective. And once your objective is very, very clear, like, again, do not change the whole workflow, change a bit of it. What is the objective? Do you want to cost save? Do you want to increase your revenue? Do you want to save time? Like, crystal clear, define your objective, like identify the problem, go really deep on the problem. On the product side, we usually go with the 5 whys framework. Highly recommend that. But therefore, really identify the problem, define the objectives, define the key results that you want to achieve, and then you can jump into the solutioning, right? And in the solutioning, you'll see that you have a gazillion different no-code solutions that are available today that you can try, that you can you can go into trial, you can pay for a month. Don't forget to cancel if you're swapping to a different thing. But the solutioning today is less and less the challenge, especially with AI. Again, today, you can basically chat with AI. You can have the AI doing the research for you. If you have defined the problem and clearly your objective, you can give that to an AI today and say, go and do the research for me and propose me the 5 top solutions that I can go and implement myself in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, and try on our own in order to achieve that. So focus much more, like spend time, like this is not time wasted, spend time on problem identification and phrasing it, which is sometimes not the most obvious, and then the objectives. The solution, you'll see that we live in 2025, amazing time to be spending money on software, but that's not the complicated part. Especially for SMBs, we are seeing more and more verticalized software that are dedicated to SMBs, right? You can see things that are very specific for one industry, for a specific size of businesses, and that usually will match your cost, objective. So solutions today is fun. Like, take that as a fun project more than anything. But the problem and objectives, they are yours and only yours, and therefore you're gonna find a dozen solutions that do that for you. But your specific problem, nobody else can phrase it for you.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful perspective. That's a great almost wrap, and I love the clarity around the problem and the objectives before you dive into the solution. Niab, anything you'd add here?
Yeah, I mean, Julian was spot on. Unless and until we don't know our problem, we can't solve that. So problem identification is the key over here. And in terms of implementation, I would just like caution, because a lot of times there's so many different tools out there. And the first tool that you come across, you become so impressed, flabbergasted, and you just want to, to implement that tool there and then. So I would suggest go out there, do as much research as possible, because you are going to do it at least once in the next couple of years. So just do it once. Try to talk to as many people as possible who might have used that tool or a similar tool. What was the impact those tools have created for them, so that you learn from other people's mistake. If you want to implement something, don't go by flashy marketing, but go by real life experiences. That way you'll be able to do it. And of course, I mean, spread your legs according to your to the sheet that you have. A lot of times people just embrace new technology for the sake of it. Do it for what your needs are, and how much do you need it today, not what you'll be needing 5 years from now.
Great perspective. Chris, before we wrap up here, any last thoughts from yourself?
Nothing really additional to add from the perspectives I like hearing on that one.
That's great. All right. So thank you so much, all three of you, for your insights, experiences, and kind of wisdom through the discussion. I know personally, I've got some takeaways and some gems that I'll take back in the work that I do as we work with clients. Thanks to all the participants who joined the session, and hopefully all of you have a great day. Brittany, back to you.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much for such an insightful panel. I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be made available on demand following the event. Our next session will begin shortly at 12:45 Eastern, which will be a keynote titled Finance Talent 101, Building and Retaining a Future-Ready Team. Please click on the join button that will appear on your screen to be redirected, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you all again.